Hi Manisha, welcome. Hello ma'am. Hira Ravi,
Good evening.
welcome.
This is Mrs. Seema Ramachandran from JRK Group of Schools, Chennai, Tamil Nadu.
Good evening ma'am.
We really appreciate future captains to bring in a webinar like this that will get to know more about the education field and how to improve on things and move ahead.
Sure
Of course,
ma'am,
I
looking
know
forward to
Amit
your
Shukla
input.
here, I think, from your group.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Welcome Mr. Sudhir, welcome Jaya Gauri ma'am. So this is Gausalya Nalathambi. Hello.
Hi, Shobha. Shobha?
Shobha. Hello Dr. Frederick Sam, welcome. So we have some representation from Muscat as well. So good evening ma'am. Chitrakala Ramachandran from Chennai Public School. Good evening ma'am. Welcome to the program.
Good evening and thank you.
Dr. Meenakshi from Shiksha. Good evening, and Samin Fatima, MWA. So we have another 5 minutes. I think what we can also do is, those who have joined us, why don't you quickly share about your expectation? Let me see if we are meeting your expectation. So I know that you have mentioned it in the, the form, registration form, but then I would love to hear from you, like what is that you want to take away from the session? Let's try our best to meet that. Who likes to go first? Good evening, Prita Abraham. Good evening, Mangaya Rasi.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Meenakshi here.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, so takeaway for this webinar from my point of view is regarding the 21st century preparation for the children as well as the teachers, the educators. So
Awesome.
how to manage, the pandemic situation and also post-pandemic period.
Right.
How to come out successful in any odd situation, facing all kinds of challenges in life. So we have to train our mind, the minds of both, all the stakeholders, for example, both the students as well as the teachers and educators, and the leaders, the heads of the institution. So this is what I am expecting from the webinar.
Okay. So I think we will be covering. I'm sure we don't have answers to all, but I'm sure we have got the best panelist possible for this. So I'm going to point fingers at the four eminent panelists here. So I'm sure they will come up with something for us.
Looking forward, sir, for such a nice webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Challenges of teachers in the upcoming days. So I'm sure that is one of the key pointers that we will be discussing. So definitely that is going to be covered. So we have another 3 more minutes. So the flow of the session, I think this is the right time to talk about the flow of the session too. But so we'll basically start with a quick introduction about us as an organization. Then I'll basically set the context in terms of why we are doing this panel discussion. Then we will open up the panel discussion. Then we are expecting close to about 45 minutes to 50 minutes of panel discussion. Then we'll have a good Q&A time. So we'll have we would love you to ask a lot of questions so that we will try our best to answer them as well, so that all of us have some takeaway when we go back. And we also have a plan forward. So we'd like to discuss that with you during the end of the session, the fag end of the session. Then we can close this. So that's how we have planned. So so Mangai Arasi is asked about Meena Karpaya, based on future learner, how to motivate individual needs. And Mangai Arasi, we are worried about present scenario about after COVID-19, where to start. Students will come to school as clean slate. How far online classes are helpful? We don't know. Let's discuss about this issue also. I'm sure, yes, that's another key issue that we will definitely take point. Okay, so I think I have one more small duty to complete.
Bye.
So wait, all the panelists in. So just making sure panelists are visible on the screen. So all right, now I think everybody can see the panelists. Okay, so I think we can start off the session. All right, so let's start on dot. So welcome everyone, leaders. I hope I'm audible to all of you. Is my voice clear? If you can just tell me if it's if you're able to see the screen and if you're able to hear my voice, that'll be helpful.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So we'll begin the session. So I just want to introduce our organization to begin with.
Able to see the screen, only your voice is.
Someone, you've been muted.
Okay. All right. So now I'm audible, right?
Yes, Tamil.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll begin the session. So welcome to Future Captains. So we are basically a 3-year-old organization. We have been operations since 2018. Our primary work has been around career mapping for high school students, and we also work with graduate students and working professionals in career mapping. We also do a lot of research on emerging careers and run awareness programs for schools and colleges. And this has been one of our key work during the pandemic, through which we have met close to about 12,000 students from school to college. We have created awareness about emerging careers post-pandemic, and that was a big success. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people came back to us and asked for different types of program. In fact, this panel discussion is an extension and a logical evolution of what we did during the pandemic and the lockdown. So that's how we have arrived here. And another main thing that we do is we work with young graduates, freshers especially, preparing them for the world of work. One of the key problems that we used to see is that a lot of students take up an offer from an organization, but then finally they don't, honor that offer. They just basically offer dropouts are on the rise. So we kind of studied on the phenomena, and we came up with solutions for that in terms of how to help the students to find job opportunities using digital skills, and also prepare them for interviews. That's one of a main area that we work on. And another interesting thing that we do is training students on value-based and 21st century, says 12, it's 21st century skills. And we basically work, and in fact, we successfully completed a grant program in a law college in Salem, and then we are moving ahead. And we also train career counselors as part of our offering. We have around 10 plus career counselors in-house with us, and we are also offering to train for others as well. And project-based learning is one of our key forte. We are strong advocates of project-based learning. So classroom sessions should be made interesting. And that's one of the things that we wanted to really strive and kind of popularize with the educational institutions. Of course, pandemic happened. Otherwise, this would have been one of our main work this year. But then, since educationalists are here, please do take a note. If at all you think that this is something that you are interested, we can always talk about this later. And just a small announcement for the students of your school, we are coming up with a career fair on December 12th and 13th. In case if you are thinking that there should be awareness of careers beyond engineering and medicine, this is it. We have got 20 different careers, 20 different speakers. It's going to be 2 days. It's on a weekend. So, you can definitely, if at all you're interested in this, we can always talk about this later. Okay. Now that's, we call it good advertisement because good things need to be communicated. So, thanks for listening. Now coming to this panel discussion, a lot of questions were raised, like, should we do this panel discussion, and what is that we are going to talk about? And there were these two main problems that was looming, and it was also bothering me as a professional, right? I'll give you my intro in a while, though many of you won't know who I am. But then I think, as a HR professional with 18 plus years of experience, the one thing that came very stalking was people were unhappy with the job that they were doing. On the other side, there was this huge queue waiting outside the interview room, wanting to get a job. And the other side, there were like jobs that were not even getting a single applicant. So these were the three major problems that I saw, and I thought, like, this problem needs to be solved, and that's one of the reasons why we got into business. But on the other side, this is also something that we wanted to create a wide awareness with the schools, because schools primarily focus on academics. They don't really worry about employability or employment, because ultimately, the schools are preparing students for higher education. That's the role that the schools were playing for a very, very long time. But the pandemic, I think the paradigm shift that happened was it started asking a lot of important questions about education itself. And the two main problems that were like looming and that were intriguing me was that one side we had a huge amount of youth population, growing youth population, and compared to the entire world, if you look at it, India is looking to overtake rest of the world in its youth population by 2025, and that blue bar is basically the young population. And this is something that we all know. I'm sure demographic dividend is something that we all know of. But then the other side of the problem that many people don't know is the talent shortage. There's this huge talent shortage that companies are struggling with finding the right talent. I'm sure you as educationalists, if you want to hire people for your school or whatever businesses that you're aware of, everybody will say this: I don't get the right people, and because of which my business suffers, right? So this talent shortage is a global problem. It's not just India's problem. But then we as educationalists, we as leaders in this space, I think we all can come together in finding answers, or at least becoming aware of such a problem. The gap between the huge supply and the huge demand. It's always there is a mismatch. So henceforth, that's the reason why we came up with the panel discussion. And let me, without much delay, will start this program. So I want to start with my self-introduction because all of you need to know who I am. So I am Tamil Selvan Mahalingam, and I am based out of Chennai. I'm also the founder and CEO of Future Captains, and I come with around 18 plus years of experience, work experience in the HR space. And I worked with companies. My last employer was Cognizant Technologies. And before that, I worked with companies like Wipro and Exaware. And I spent a considerable amount of time in the UK. And 2017, I came out of Cognizant, and 2018, we launched Future Captains. And I gave up a US opportunity, then took up entrepreneurship as a a passion, or rather, it's like passion, dream, everything. So we started with nothing. I'm not backed up with with great angel investors or anything. It's purely a passion. We started off, and we have got a fantastic team in place. So that's some others, that story we can share it for some other time. And I am a product of the school KFI, Chennai, and I am a BA Economics graduate from Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda College, and in the MBA from Satyabama University. So that's a little bit intro about myself. And let me start with the panelist introduction. I'll start with Mr. Nandakumar. And Nandakumar, sir, he comes with close to 4 decades in the K-12 education sector. And he also has been into teaching, training, educational leadership. He has built schools, and he's been into auditing, and anything related to education. I think he has his hands on it. So that's one of the things that intrigued me. So and he is somebody who has been on board for many schools, and he's also an IB diploma coordinator, and he set up schools across the globe, including countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Thailand, and New Zealand. So he's been there. Currently, he's director with in his own business. He and his spouse are part of that venture. They run a company called Datta Educational Consultants. And today, as part of the panelist, he's going to represent the school management and principals as part of the panel. So welcome, sir. I'm very happy to be having you as part of the panel discussion.
Thank you.
Okay. So my next panelist, very soft-spoken person, but he has a lot of things behind his name. So Dr. Karunakaran, a PhD in chemistry from Annamalai University, and he's been in this space for the last 27 years. And he's a principal and secretary. He used to be part of Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, and he was dean with Sona College of Technology. He was also a former president of Association of Principals of Bharadar University. And he's a joint secretary of Association of Indian College Principals, which is an all India body, and of course managing trustee of Hosur Public School, College of Commerce, and Chennai Race Institute. Also, he's a CEO of Hindustan Group of Institutions. I have to catch my breath right now, so the list goes on. So welcome, sir, Karunakaran sir, Dr. Karunakaran, who will be representing the higher education sector in the panel. Right, welcome, sir. Very happy to have you as part of the panel.
Vanakkam and good evening to all of you.
Okay, so let's move on to the next panelist, Ms. Ami Shukla. She brings that diversity quotient into our panelists, so I'm very happy about that. Another very important thing is she's also a good, she's a good trainer, and she comes with 14 years of experience in academic sales, training, and business development. And she has trained several teachers in delivery and design of lesson plans. And she has worked with organizations like Exceed, Magic Crate, and EuroKids. She's also an entrepreneur and a freelance trainer right now. And she will be the representative for the parents community as part of the panelist. So welcome, Ami. and very happy to have you as part of the panel.
Thank you, Tamil. Good evening to all.
Right. And my fourth and final panelist is Dr. Anand Lakshmanan. Again, someone who's very soft-spoken with a lot of accolades behind him. A doctorate in engineering from Indian Institute of Science, and also a postdoctorate. And he has around 2.5 decades in the industry. A senior member of IEEE Chennai chapter. He's also a Senate member of IIIT DM, Design and Manufacturing, Kanchipuram. So he's also a guest faculty in a couple of institutions, and he was in a leadership role in Ericsson in the product engineering space, and then right now he's an entrepreneur and is also exploring opportunities in the edtech space. And yeah, so welcome, Dr. Anand, and you will be representing the industry, part from the panelist angle. So welcome to the panel discussion. Thank you, and so. This is our panelist.
Thank you very much.
So this is our panelist, and let me share the screen so that we can go ahead with the panel discussion. And I have some good questions for all of you. So let me start with the warm-up questions that I have created for the panelists. So the first question I'm going to target at Mr. Nandakumar. Do you think the pandemic has shaken the foundation of our schools and colleges? Is it good or bad?
I mean, it can hardly be good, but there is a silver lining in every threat that happens, whether in personal life or social life. It has forced schools and colleges to rethink on two very important aspects. I mean, there are many, but I'm talking about the two most, for want of time, I will concentrate only on two. One, use of technology as a supplementary or a complementary tool, irrespective of what economic strata the institution belongs to. Number one. Number two, it has also forced them to think about long-term economic or financial stability. Both are very important for the private school and college sector, and some have risen up to it, some are learning it the hard way. But in the second one, there are no definite solutions. Hopefully, people will get ready for the next disaster. Hopefully, it doesn't happen ever again. But the first one, I think schools and colleges have coped up rather well. They've coped rather well. I'm sorry, not coped up. They've coped rather well with use of technology. I find some of the schools that where most teachers don't even have forget a laptop, not even a tablet, they have managed to deliver lessons using the cheapest version of handset. So it has taken everybody by surprise, but it has induced fresh thinking in the way we go about things. And I am not a big buyer of this new normal business, but it has introduced this new element called blended learning, which is here to stay. I'll stop there.
Okay. I think when we had a session with Bhavani Shankar sir, he in fact resonated the same point a couple of months ago, that blended learning is here to stay. So, definitely something that we foresee. So this question, Ms. Shukla, so this is for you. As a parent, what do you think has been the biggest advantage and disadvantage of the online classes? What do you think, that you're really happy and unhappy with that?
Advantages, of course, I don't see much, but definitely children being home during the pandemic is the biggest advantage. I see that children are getting a safe environment at home. So I would say, as a parent, that is what I would put first most when my child comes into picture. The disadvantage and advantage is also that children have learned to be a little more independent than they are, because getting up in the morning and logging into the class and being there in front of the teacher is become, kind of their responsibility, because everybody at home has got their own laptop and got their own, responsibility to take. So I think children have become a little more responsible than before, and that's the advantage. Disadvantage is understanding the output of this entire learning process, which is we are not able to tangibly, understand whether the child is getting through understanding the concepts, and are they really going to, it's really helping this kind of learning is a major question, because there's no scalability, there's no way to scale this. So I think that's the way I look at it.
Learning outcome. Okay, I think that's a very important point. I think we will talk about that in a minute. Now I'm going to direct this next question to Dr. Karunakaran. So this higher education institutions and schools, right? The student basically is like this conveyor belt. The student comes as a semi-finished product and comes to the higher education institution, and from higher education institution then goes out to the job market as a finished product. I'm just in analogical terms. What do you think is the gap between school education and higher education? I think we spoke about this gap, but for best interest of others as well, what is the gap all about? And also, is it going to get bigger, or the gap is going to be becoming better or worse if online classes become a norm of the day? So what do you think about this gap?
Yeah, Mr. Tamal, since I manage both school education as well as higher education, I find the kind of issue behind the migration from school education to higher education. See, school education is very defined. If you take boards like IBR, CBSE kind of stuff, a very fundamental concept is being prevailing to take care of all the three domain development, whether it is a fundamental knowledge or meta knowledge or humanistic knowledge. But when a student is migrating from school education to higher education, especially to the professional education like engineering, medicine, architecture, and that, very narrow focus. All the higher education providers think that those students are capable or possessing the kind of meta knowledge area very well from the school sector. I'm talking about the creativity, critical thinking, problem solving ability, persuasion, or team management skills, all those things. The importance is not given in the higher education side for the meta knowledge. Only the focus is towards the core fundamental knowledge addition. So what I feel is this is a gap, right? Yeah. One side, the school thinks that the college will take care. From college side, what they think is already the students have completed K-12 education, so they know something are better in that area. So let us skip and move forward with the specific knowledge in the core domain. So this gap is there. And nobody is having the time to analyze the gap in the higher education sector to match in the curriculum. What we do here in Hindustan, Coimbatore is we really try to find out the gap, and we mix with the curriculum here, because most of our institutions are autonomous in nature. Only autonomous institutions can design the curriculum, finding the gap, the right mix of, again, all those three domains. We strongly feel even in higher education, those three areas, fundamental meta knowledge as well as the social skills or value education kind of is also needed even in professional education. We completely missed in the last about 25 plus years. Innovation is a paper, value education is a paper, entrepreneurship is a paper, soft skills are paper. Wherever possible, we would like to ensure that EQ levels are developed even during the 4-year professional education period. So this is what I feel as a major gap And the other thing, what I feel is when the students are in school, the question comes, are they prepared for higher education in the way they want? I'm just leaving this question to all the school leaders here, because many of the schools, just for want of having 20% or 30% students to go for medical field or engineering field, so the other students are getting punished. I repeat this word, the other students are getting punished. That's a major percentage of students who are all sitting in our classrooms, school classrooms. They are really not getting what they want. So with that field, I'm leaving the platform further.
Yeah, so I'm one of the victims for that, so I can also vouch for it. I asked for first group, but then I got pure science, but I couldn't really cope with pure science, so I moved into commerce group later. So yeah, so that is definitely a pointer to note. Okay, Dr. Anand, so this question is for you. So you have 3 decades of work experience, and then you would have definitely hired a lot of freshers as part of your job. What do you think is the big gap in the higher education to industry? I mean, what do you think? Where do you think we are missing out right now from the transition from institute to academia to industry?
Okay, good question, Samad. And I think Dr. Karunakaran has actually answered a part of it already, because the gaps that he has actually perceived get kind of magnified when they actually transition from higher education or the collegiate education to the careers, corporate world. Some of the things which I would personally look at as significant areas with significant gaps, which eventually hamper, or we end up spending or investing a lot of things in unlearning them and relearning or doing things like that. First is basically Karunakaran mentioned about meta-knowledge and EQ.
Right.
Meta-knowledge and EQ is something which I feel is something where the basic seeds are sown at school level, and it is nurtured at the collegiate level, and they bear fruits in the corporate world. So that is something which has to happen in all the 3 stages, and that's completely lacking today. So basically, they are actually learning a lot of things through trial and error, and going through bad experiences, good experiences, and then they are forming all these things when they are on their job. So that is one of the problems that I see. Second thing is that both in schools and colleges, in very many situations, students are made to focus on the given syllabus or curriculum. So they have a textbook or some notes or something which they have to study, and finally they have to crack the exam and come out. So the focus is all about examination. So what this actually hampers is the curiosity. The curiosity is completely gone by the time half of it is already gone by the time they enter collegiate. And in college also, even though in college we say that normally professors don't tutor them or spoon feed them the way it is done in school, but still very many colleges, because of the expectations of students, probably things don't really change significantly. So what happens is the curiosity and their ability to explore and learn things is actually curtailed, which is extremely critical when it comes to the professional world. So there again, it takes a lot of time for people to evolve these things and learn and trying to start getting into innovation. Again, Karunakaran touched upon this point, which is basically innovation is extremely critical for establishing themselves and for a very strong career in any field. I'm not talking about a particular field, be it manufacturing, be it the IT sector, or be it the healthcare sector. The innovation, the curiosity, ability to explore, ability to analyze, these are things which are extremely critical, and that is very, very lacking in the students that we get. So, and the third thing is that for all these things to work very well, the passion should be there. Are the students really following their passion? Are they aligned with what they really want to do, and they are able to self-motivate themselves? Because every time they cannot look outside for motivating them. So are they able to self-motivate? The best way to self-motivate is to be aligned with your passion and keep challenging yourself, keep pushing the bar higher and higher. So to do that, they have to look at where their passion lies. So these three are significant issues that we see when freshers come into the corporate world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that elaborate answer. In fact, that's one of the things that people say self-learning should be one of the key skills that students must have, for 21st century, survival. They should be a constant self-learner is something that, is something that we have to insist. I'm also sharing some information for all of our benefit. This is basically, skills that was identified by McKinsey. And they came up with 3 meta skills. Now we spoke about meta skills. I thought this would be a right time to share. So 3 meta skills that they talk about is self-management, social intelligence, and innovation. The green dots that you see, the big ones are going to be quickly replaced by automation. The small ones will get replaced. Orange will in due course. Red big dots are the ones that will not be automated very quickly. So if anybody who is having good amount of competency in these skills, the big red dots, their jobs will sustain for a longer time. And this is something that McKinsey came up with. And in fact, I thought it will be a good pointer to share with the August crowd here. Another interesting thing that I would want to share with I know that I'm barging into the panel discussion, but these things are very important for the dots to connect. The 2022 skills outlook from World Economic Forum very clearly said that anything that you do with your hands and your spatial or verbal will probably get phased out, because you will have an automation system that will translate for you or even take your dictation, whereas your thinking skills, your creativity, like Dr. Anand said, will become far more crucial for you to stay relevant in the job market. Another transition that's happening that I would want the leadership to take note of is that slowly we are moving from a pipeline economy to a platform economy. What does it mean? 10 years ago, Universal was selling mobile phones in a shop, right? And today, I know Purvika is another example. All these mobile selling organizations, they set up shop and they used to sell. And they used to sell, say, 1 lakh mobile phones, in a quarter or in 6 months. But today, if I just launch a mobile phone on Amazon platform, I sell 1 lakh mobile phones in about few minutes, in 30 minutes, right? So the platform economy is transforming the way industries will be functioning. And this is one of the key points I wanted to leave you with, because are we getting our students ready for such a transition or transformation that's happening within the industry? This means a lot of people who are working or having a job will most likely lose their jobs in no time, because some automation will take over and people will find their jobs obsolete. So that's something that, and just to add that pipeline, the platform economy, just to give you some more evidence, the number of $1 billion companies are unicorns. I'm sure you'll not be able to see the names, but the number of companies are increasing every year. So from 84 companies 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it became 393 companies as on 2019. And this year again, we have got few more companies added to it. So the number of unicorns are increasing, which means they are going to disrupt the way businesses are going to function. And businesses are the ones that are going to hire the students from higher education institutions, and higher education institutions are getting students funneled from schools. You see the connection, right? So that's why this becomes very, very important. Another last slide that I would like to share before I continue with the panel discussion is that the relevance of degree, right? Some of these companies are global companies and they are getting away from degree as a qualification. So are we really prepared for such a transition? Are we really gearing up our students to face such a challenge, or even parents for that matter? How ready are the schools? Because this kind of a change will question the entire ecosystem. Do I need a degree? So if I don't need a degree, do I need to go to school? Those kind of questions will start emerging very quickly. So now coming back to the panel discussion, I have some questions for all of you. So Mr. Nandakumar, so this is for you. What would be the role of NEP in addressing this challenge? because I'm sure you're talking a lot on national new education policy. I saw you personally for the draft, discussion. Of course, here we are talking about the actual policy itself. Do you think it's addressing this challenge? Implementing NEP, would you think it is going to get the schools ready for facing this challenge? Over to you.
I will, again, I'm very conscious of time, so I'll try to not elaborate or justify what I'm trying to say, but I'll just point out a few things. To a large extent, the NEP tries to address quite a lot of it, both at the school level and at the higher secondary level. If I can generalize, I think the NEP tries to make future generations both job ready and life ready. These are equal things, these are equally important. You yourself have said, look, there are industries change, and if I build a structure which makes them suit a set of industries, the type of industries don't change. So I don't even know what type of industries we are going to walk into in the next decade or decade and a half. So, but then there will be jobs, but the skills required for these jobs will change. So the NEP, though it doesn't say it in so many terms, this is my own interpretation, it does try to make future learners both life ready and job ready. And it tries to hint at it, without saying it in so many words, on what schools should perhaps do, what higher education should perhaps do. So far, if again we can generalize it, I think schools have been looking increasingly at making them life ready, and higher education has been increasingly trying to make them job ready. But I think there should be a good mix at both levels. School should pass on all those necessary skills that higher education can build on to make them job ready with the necessary skills. And it better be a platter of skills, not just specialized skills. And the higher education has somehow decided, okay, I'm going to get a matured set of students, and I don't have to work on their psychology, sociology, their social skills, presentation skills, team, leadership, collegiality, and all that stuff. It's wrong. So I think they have to take up some of those aspects, the non-tangible aspects that they have not bothered about yet. So the NEP doesn't say it in so many words, but some of the structure that it is going to build does indicate that the thinking is on the right lines. But I'm going to repeat what has been said ever since the policy came. Implementation is a big issue. This is a massive, massive issue. Let's not, leaving political comments aside, India is very bad at implementing anything. Very bad. We are not even able to implement the helmet rule because you have the Madurai Bar Association protesting against helmet. So people have to accept it as a political or an educational ideology, and then go about the task of training the adults who can in turn deliver it. So I think NEP does address it. Their far-reaching schemes of academic credit bank, multidisciplinary university, separating research-oriented colleges from teaching colleges, or when it comes to the schooling sector, keeping the operations away from affiliation away from assessment. These are all wonderful concepts. It talks about accessibility, sustainable development goals, and equity at the same time. Access to everybody, equitable education to everybody. So there are problems of implementation that we'll face. There are problems of finance that we'll face big time. There's going to be big time, and that way I think the pandemic has caused a higher damage to some of these long-term goals, because this has to be majorly a government initiative. I am talking on behalf of private schools, I'm sure private schools and private colleges will do a wonderful job of NEP. But we should all realize here, I mean, most of us here belong to this group here belong to private education sector, school or college. But we should all understand that we coexist with the rest of the population, and 70 to 80% of them still access schools that are government run, either directly or indirectly. And there it has to be implemented properly. That's a major worry. Otherwise, NEP is far-reaching. It has some very clear deadlines. It does say that I want to finish this by this time. I want to reach this by this time. It even says when the next education policy should be done. And it says the draft should be done in 2035. It should be rolled out in 2040 because it knows that the shelf life of any policy cannot be more than 2 decades because it's 34 years since we made one. So I'm very optimistic. I'm very happy about what they say. They have understood the plurality of the country, but I think all of us have to individually take it up as our task to ensure that we will do all the best, all that we can to help good implementation.
Sure. So thank you so much for that elaborate answer. But I also request all of you to keep a tab on the time because we need to have at least a 30 minutes for Q&A. Now, Dr. K. Karunakaran, a question to you. Now that Nandakumar sir has elaborated on the features of NEP, and of course, as he pointed out, the private institutions can do a wonderful job in implementing it. And of course, if the onus comes back to the leadership in each institution to implement it properly, what do you think will be the cost of inaction? And do you think the leadership is prepared for such a drastic shift in running the institutions? And very importantly, because you run both schools and colleges, so I don't think I cannot think of a better person than you to answer this question.
Fine. See, this NEP is going to throw away a lot of benefits to the society, especially to create better employable graduates on one side, and the other side with better value systems in our society. Clear focus is there, no doubt on that. Who are all understanding very clearly, because the policy is not just leaving with these points. The policy is also light, but it is going to be tight. Tight in the sense, those who are not in line with the expectation, they are not going to be in the field at all, whether it is a school sector or a higher education sector. There are going to be monitoring accreditation bodies for both the school education as well as college education. Definitely, such monitoring will gear up quality into our systems, whether it is a government sector or private sector. So those who are clearly understanding the real future of education, no doubt, they are going to survive in the field of education to run, maybe as a policy holder or the promoter kind of stuff. A word comes here, philanthropic mode from the private sector. How it is going to be interpreted by the government in the later part, we don't know exactly. And this pandemic also given a way forward to all the students as well as to the teacher community here. The digital technology and the open sourced content. Now everybody is exposed. A child is getting the content from anywhere in the platform. So far, they are not exposed to such kind of input. So they were majorly looking the teachers. So there will be a real challenge in front of all of us, whether I'm a principal or CEO or a teacher or a principal. After the pandemic, when we open the school, really we will be having, or the college, we'll be having our tough time to clearly connect with our students with the mindset of already they were exposed to this open source content and the digital technologies. probably a blended approach, clearly focusing blended approach will only take our binding with the students further. The NEP, yes, into the higher education sector is going to give away, because the real change is going to happen hereafter, after about 35 plus years. There is no foreign university here, and we are not equating with any of the foreign university system here. Just now we are thinking about the credit depository, maybe autonomy in the real sense, all those things. So really there is a way forward, and we are eagerly looking for that. Over to you, Tamil.
Yeah, okay, great. So Dr. Anand, I think Dr. KK very clearly, pointed out the cost of inaction, like they would not stay relevant. Now coming to you, because this entire handing over of the student from school to college to work, how do you think, what's your view on this? What role do you think schools must play from an industry perspective in terms of handing over the student from school to college? You're on mute, Doctor. You're on mute. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I would, as I mentioned in my previous reply to the previous question, a lot of things starts happening at the school level, which gets nurtured and then it gets handed over to the corporate, and they flourish in the corporate world. So I think school has a very significant role to play in sowing the seeds of certain very important and critical thought process and critical ways of working and analyzing. So as I said, exploring curiosity, instilling that sense of curiosity in students has to happen at very, very early on in school. And now this, as Nandakumar said, is basically that the NEP is actually aligned towards that, where they want people to focus more on building skills rather than actually merely building the knowledge bank. So that is going to be extremely critical, where the nurturing of the curiosity has to happen. The second aspect that schools have to play a very significant role is basically it is not only about curiosity. Once the students see something, they get curious about something, they have to step by step approach that thing and analyze that whole thing and convert that idea into a problem, and that problem eventually to a solution. So there is a lot of analysis involved. So this analysis is extremely important and critical. In fact, I believe the analysis is not about just, it is not required only for research purpose. A guy who does very good analysis can be a good researcher. Yes, I agree. For a researcher, analysis is a must. But for every individual to take a very balanced and a matured decision at any decision point, in my view, analysis is extremely critical. What you analyze is basically all the information that you have at hand. How well you use the information is what analysis is all about. So second, that is another thing which is very, very important, which has to grow from school level itself. School, when I say school, at least at secondary school onwards, the students should be taught to realize the importance of analysis in whatever they do. So it is not merely like knowing a problem just to actually solve the problem, but knowing the concepts well enough so that if the problem is were to be twisted and presented in a completely different way, they still will be able to solve the problem because they approach the problem from an analytical perspective. So that's the second point. The third critical point is that, as I said in my earlier thing also, is to do with align certain things with their passion. Now to do that, schools should actually create an awareness of the concept of career in students. Students should know that a career is not merely getting into an engineering institution or a medical institution or going into a law or something. Career doesn't end by getting themselves admitted in a college. It is actually the first step that they are taking towards creating a career for themselves. And they have not yet created a career. A career gets created only after they leave college and they get into a job that they are actually passionate about. So the schools should actually create that awareness of the importance of selecting a career which is actually aligned with their interest. It is aligned with their core strength. Strength, when I say their personality, and also aligned with the what they really want to achieve in life. Now, when all these three things come together, then the success of their career is actually, I will say, is assured. Now, but this what we see is that in very many students just go into engineering. See, today if I see that all the coaching institutions like FITGI and Akash and whatever have been able to thrive on this fact that they are able to sell their thing because it's all IIT JEE. JEE is the only thing which everybody have to go after their 12th standard. If it is not JEE, it is going to be any NEET. If not NEET, they have to go for, if it is all commerce student, they have to somehow start focusing on CA and things like that. So we have to break out of that, and NEP gives a wonderful opportunity to give them the feel of the various things that they can do, what are the various things that is available to them, and then align their interests and align their passions to what they actually eventually want to do.
Right.
Over to you, Tamil.
Okay, so thank you so much for that elaborate answer. Okay, once again, we have another 13 minutes, so I would want to really race towards the more important part, teachers, right? How do we equip our teachers for this change? Because I think this question I would want to start with Ami Shukla. I know online learning is happening. Some of the key areas of improvement, what would be the things that you are not very happy about? What do you think is something that is missing out, especially from a teacher's angle? Because you're also a teacher trainer, so I think you'd be able to answer this question much well.
Sorry to say that many things teachers have learned in this pandemic, especially handling technology itself was a very big challenge. But I think teachers, as Nandakumar sir also said, have taken it up and are trying it very seriously to deliver as much as they can. But the gap which I see between delivery of any career, of anything and the learning is that the way the delivery is happening. See, one is to complete portions. Teachers are trying to do it with all the challenges they face, but also it is a challenge that how I deliver this, how I get it across to the child who's sitting in some other place and is watching me over the video. I think that thought process for a teacher is becoming a major challenge because till now they are still learning the technology bit. There are lots of PowerPoint presentations made. There's lots of talking which is happening from the teacher's point of side. But the total interaction between the teacher and child, I feel, is quite missing because of the virtual world we live in. Secondly, we don't know how much the children have taken. So, and understanding whether the children have understood the concept which I'm taking is a major gap that teachers also facing because she's delivered it, but how am I to understand whether my child has got it? If interaction was there, then online classes are 40. Sometimes I've seen 100 children in one class because it's virtual, they take it together. But how many of those 100 have really taken up the concept? How many of that 100 have understood it? How many of the 100 are going to be able to reproduce from this is a major challenge, I think, which teachers are facing themselves. They themselves are not very happy about. And I think as a trainer, I was also not able to bridge the gap much. In spite of you saying we can do online tests, there are multiple choice questions teachers have been setting up for. But I think that's the major gap. So when children come back to school, will they have the basic concepts done last year and will they be able to cope up with the new ones is a major question.
Okay. So coming to this very important question, I think this question is for both Dr. Karunakaran and Mr. Nandakumar. How can each school be prepared to embrace this, reopening of schools, or even the future, embracing the future itself? Like, what could be your suggestion? I mean, you can, if there is an overlap in the suggestion, it's okay, but then you can let us know about your ideas, or rather implementation ideas, some tips, something that that people can start doing to prepare for the reopening of schools, and also getting the teachers ready for the change. So,
Also, KK, you start. I will wait for you.
Okay.
See, as far as I think this meeting, my Hosur Public School as well as the Billabong's high principals are there. I think I would like to bring them to answer for this question, because mentally they have to get ready than me in my organization. Fine. Mr. Tamal, see here, yes, of course. In higher education, it is going to be a big challenge. At least in school education, still they are with their teachers. Because we have already directed in higher education to go for open source content with NPTEL or Coursera or Udemy kind of stuff. Come back with the reports of the examination so that we can award the equal credits. The next question comes to the student mind is, why should I come to college? Why should I sit in the class? Already degrees are now given away in online. Even IIT Meta started a BSc program in data analytics. When this is the situation, even Google is coming out with modular certifications in some of the tech courses. But school is safe now. Yes, they are in the control. I mean, the students are in the control of the teachers, and they are following each direction of the school. I think school will not find any difficulty or much difficulty compared to the college education. This is what my point of view.
Okay.
Tamil, I think schools will definitely face initial hiccups, and we have to relate our moves and communication to the emotions and psychology of parents of 3 to 18-year-olds. Okay? There's a lot of misinformation and media-driven nonsense that has populated their heads. Okay? So each school individually have to not only communicate, but also make some obvious changes in the way they receive students. You have to make them believe that it is a perfectly safe place. We all know by now that the children don't get, I can't say don't get infected easily, they don't get affected easily, but they are going to interface with adults, and children can become vectors. They can really become asymptomatic carriers. So we will have to ensure, we'll have to communicate to the parents that you are in a safe atmosphere. We will follow all the safety norms that is possible. 3, we will have only those adults interfacing with children who are perfectly screened and devoid of any sign of infection or fever, etc. So it's going to be a bit of a psychological, emotional battle, which should be won over by a combination of clear communication and optics. They have to see certain things installed there, and it has to be made very, very obvious to them. So that, so these are very briefly what I suggest.
All right, super. Okay, so coming to this, we want to come to the fag end of this session. Now that we have to open up the floor for questions and answers. Before we close, Dr. Anand, generally, what do you think, would be your top 3 skills that you want schools to, you spoke about creativity and everything. What do you think at a high school level, what are the 3 things that you want the schools to inculcate to actually bring them into the higher education?
I would just summarize the skills that I have been talking about. First is basically the thinking skills, ability to think And secondly is being able to independently think for themselves, independently form opinions, and be courageous enough to face their opinions that they have formed. Because it's not about just merely forming opinions, but be able to voice it and be able to stand by what they have actually what they think is right. So thinking and forming opinions independently and being independent, these are two skills which are very critical. And also being extremely and taking and being aware of careers and taking careers into their hands. Every student need to realize that they are the only owners of their careers, and it is their responsibility to actually ensure that the careers flourish over a period of 40 years, because once the education is over, it's almost going to be 40 years that they will be in career. So they have to take career into their hands and be able to run with it and be able to take the right decisions. So for taking the right decisions, they need to have the thinking skills and be able to have the independence. The rest of the things they will be learning, like all the fundamental knowledge that will come through their learnings and everything, that is all there. So these skills are extremely important. And if I can add one more, which is actually kind of ties the thinking and independent skills, is basically ability to self-learn. So long as they have the ability to learn at any point in time, because learning is something which is actually permanent. Technology keeps evolving, technology keeps changing. What is valid today is completely invalid, say 5 years down the line. So that being the case, they have to be ready to actually very quickly adapt themselves and switch into a different thing. So for this very fast adaptation to the new environment, which means they should be ready to self-learn. They can't rely on a teacher every time to handhold them and teach them the new concepts. So I would say that the three things that of self-learning, thinking skills, and independent living and independent thinking, along with a career awareness and taking control of their careers, will make them a good prospects for the corporate.
Right. Okay. Last question to all the four of you. So I will basically, yeah, go ahead, Ami. You want to add? Please go ahead.
Just perspective of a parent, how much does the school help us to understand these skill sets? Because I would be more than happy if one of the school could give me a report analysis of my child having these skill sets, and these skill sets in further, will help him choose a career. So that's the thought I would leave you all with. Does it help?
Okay. I'm sure.
Great point, Ami. Great point. Yeah.
Okay. So the question to all the four of you, I'll start with Dr. Karunakaran and then end with Dr. Mr. Nandakumar. So, what's your sentiment about the future as a, maybe from a higher educational institution point of view? What's your sentiment? How do you feel? Upbeat? You're feeling what do you say? Confused? What is the feeler that you have right now?
See, school education is going to remain maybe in the same setup with the some of the suggestions given by NEP. Yes, of course, slight modification is going to be there in the school education setup, but it is going to be a challenging for the school education until otherwise they understand very clearly about the future skill kind of imbibed curriculum. Yes, teachers need to be skilled first, then we can design curriculum accordingly into the school education sector. Whereas the higher education is certainly, it is going to be an uncertain, right? Real VUCA is going to exist in front of the higher education. That's what, in simple form.
VUCA, yeah, I think volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
You're right.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Ami, what's your sentiment? How do you feel about how we are ready for the future as an institution?
Frankly, from a parent completely being not an educationist right now and being a high school parent, higher secondary parent, which I am, sorry. Yeah. So I'm feeling very restless and very uncertain, because I don't think, sadly, school is helping my child, even look at what her skill sets are and what she should do in the future for herself. So she's in her grade 10th, and all she knows is, Amma, should I take science next year? Whereas she's interested in law, she's interested in writing for IAS, but option given or thought process is always take science, and then if you don't find anything, then go for other subjects. I don't even think she should be thinking science, because that's not going to help her to any of the careers she's going to be planning to take. So I think where is the guidance? Where is the where is the understanding of this child, what she wants to do, and how do we guide? I think I'm feeling very restless about this. That's the feeling for me as a parent.
Okay, Dr. Anand.
At this point, I would say that actually, as a country, if I were to look at it, we are going through an inflection point now. So I'm very, very encouraged, and I'm very excited about what the future holds for us. So if we were to look at the way India has been focusing on and developing on entrepreneurship and innovations and things like that, technology, focus on technology, higher technology, I would say that we are really getting ready to be global. And we are probably, if we really do the right things, our country is definitely poised to take over the leadership of the global leadership and be one of the top countries there. The only thing that I can actually think of which can hold back is not grooming and nurturing our young talent in the right way. So if we can provide them the right guidance and provide them the needed support and create the right awareness and make them understand the importance and allow them to take career into their hands and actually allow their passions to flow, I think we have a lot of opportunities in front of us. I don't think we are probably this is the best time in the world, best time I would say, in terms of the opportunities that are available.
Super. Mr. Nandakumar?
I would very strongly endorse what Professor Anand said. I am super excited. There are dampeners like the pandemic, but whether it is in the corporate sector or in the political restructuring or the NEP, it has thrown such wonderful opportunities that all that you have to do as an individual or as a community or as a society or as an institution is to grab it with both your hands, be alert, and use the best of it. Inflection point is the exact word that I was looking at. That's what Professor Anand said. You have now a policy, and you have a reasonably relaxed set of norms in the society, which permit a progressive, modern, equitable society to leap forward. So we should leave cynicism behind. We should listen less to mainstream media, which is very, very important. We should listen and read less of them and make our independent opinion and be very, very positive. I'm I'm sure we are heading for wonderful times. A lot of things are happening, but for the pandemic.
Beautiful. So I just wanted to add my point. 2007, I was in UK, and I was seeing this Eastern European country, nationals used to migrate very frequently to UK and start finding work. And I used to wonder, like, why they are coming here. They take up jobs like janitors and plumbers, electricians. So they used to do all these low-end work, so-called low-end work. Not for me, but there the dignity of labor is very high, so they don't find that as a low-end work. But then they used to pick up such work, and they used to find jobs in UK at that point of time. In fact, that was the starting point of thinking, the global workforce mobility, right? What does that have in connection with this? We have a majority of youth population. If they are rightly employed, if they are rightly channelized, we could supply the whole globe with the kind of workforce that they require. In fact, 2 years back, Japan came up with this option saying that they were ready to recruit 2 lakh IT engineers if at all they were able to speak Japanese. So a combination of skills would open up a lot of doors in the global sector, as Dr. Anand rightly mentioned. So I am actually super excited. The possibilities that lies in ahead of us are really exciting. But the word is that if we don't channelize the youth, we can actually create antisocials also, right? And one side we have an opportunity to create global workforce, and the other side we are actually, if we are underprepared, the snake will come back and bite us in the near future. So that is something that we all need to be very, very mindful. And on that note, let me open up the floor for questions. And I would want people to, the school leadership, to ask questions to the panelists, so that we have another 24 minutes. So let's open up the floor. And over to you, people. Anyone?
Hello, sir. I am Meena Karpia from Madurai, Mahatma Global Gateway School. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. We are able to hear you.
Sir, my question is already the CBSE board is introducing so many options and new subjects in grade 11. But how far the college is catering for those options in their higher level studies? Because mostly we are giving them the lot of options in the 11th grade, but when they move on to the higher level, it is like narrowing down and number of options and the number of subjects which is not available in the college. That pushes people to think on whether to choose these subjects or not. So that is the challenge where parents also think on those areas, and they think that this is better we choose a science group as their majors.
Ma'am, I think you have to repeat that question in a simpler, because you missed out on the question. So can you just repeat it in a short format?
I think madam is having some connectivity issue.
Yeah, you seem to have some.
Mr. Tamal, what I have understood is, see, there are some changes in the content of the CBSE board, I believe. How it is going to reflect in the higher education, I believe that that is what she wants to clarify or discuss.
Meena Kumar, man, you want to kind of. I think she just logged out. Okay, she'll be back. So.
Tamil, I think I have some hunch of what her question is very transactional in nature.
Okay.
And I think to put it very politely, I think it should not be much of a concern. CBSE, not just now, has always given a platter to choose from, and only schools have been restricting themselves to groups. Strictly speaking, CBSE does not recognize groups. It says, I have 70 plus subjects, you do any 4 plus language. Okay. So now, under the new 4-year, 8 semester, 9, 10, 11, 12 pattern, if the policy is anything to go by, you have to do a wider range of subjects. And her question was, when you give such a wider range in school, and you have a narrow range in higher education, does it not put things in a quandary for the children? Okay, that was her question. If she had read the higher secondary thing, chapters 12 to 80, she would also understand that at the higher secondary level also, there is a strong direction towards kids picking up lot of things, not just specializing in one subject. They're talking about multi-skilling. They should continue, it expects them to continue specializing in something even as they keep their passion intact. You do higher mathematics plus archery or something like that. I'm just going for an extreme example. So I think it is not something to worry about much if the policy, as I see, is implemented by both K-12 sector and the higher education sector.
Okay. Right. can we have the next question, please?
Yeah. Hello.
Sir,
I
can
am
I?
Abraham.
Yeah.
Can I pose a question?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Okay.
We are focusing on skills is a good thing, very good. In fact, we are focusing on employability is very good. It makes everything very lucrative to the young generation now. They would be looking out at making themselves employable. But my question is, in the long run, who are going to be the future teachers, professors, and researchers who will take the country to a higher plane? You know, we are still facing a very dearth in teachers for the humanities section, because science becomes very lucrative, which will provide them IT jobs and good money and all that. So we need good teachers, researchers, and professors to actually teach them these skills and employability in their schools and colleges of future. What happens to that side? We've been talking only about the skills that make them employable. But what about those skills which will, you know, take them towards higher academics to become academicians and professors and teachers?
Okay. Can I take that question? I mean, I would love that question. Actually.
Yes, please.
So there are two parts of this thing. One is awareness, right? Lack of awareness, because I don't know anybody who's been in that profession in the family, or you know, or I am not familiar with that option, or people think that it is not a high-paying job, so they might not want to take that up. So that is one side of the problem. The other side of the problem is, you know, they generally think that you know, they want you know, they want a high-paying job, and they don't think that this is the right you know, avenue for growing, right? And I would also say that parents, most of the parents, I think parents here, you know, a lot of teachers would be parents already. How many of you would really want your children to be teachers? It's a question that I would want to put forward, because most of the time what happens is, if the parent is not enjoying the job, they think that that job is useless, and they want to tell their children that, you know, I am suffering with this, I don't want you to suffer, so do something else. This happened with the agriculture sector. Most of the farmers, because they were you know, having some trouble, they told their children that, you know, don't become a farmer, go become engineer, so I will sell my land, I will make you study engineering, and you can become something else. So the suffering that the parent goes through, they don't want that the same thing go to the child as well. So these are the two things that affects a choice of career, especially from my observation. One is lack of awareness. Second is the parent does not want the child to do or go through the same pain that he or she went through. So this is what is happening. So maybe I would also want the other panelists to add on if they think there is a better answer. Please go ahead.
But we do need good farmers and good teachers in the country.
Mrs. Preeta, under the new system,
yes, sir.
if the multidisciplinary cross-curricular program works out well, and with the choice of people becoming teachers with a 4-year B.Ed, or a 40-year-old who has been an astronomer or a hockey player picking up a 1 or a 2 or a 3-year degree, depending upon his basic qualification, becoming a teacher. If these combinations are permitted, the NEP is extremely aware of the shortage of good teachers. So if that is permitted, I don't see a major failure. You know, for the first time, the thing says you can do after +2 a 4-year program, or after degree a 3-year program, after master's or a 4-year degree you can do a 1-year program. Even now, as we speak, Mr. Karnagaran will be able to endorse this. As we speak, for the last few years, the much talked about IT industry has ended up donating lot of young teachers to the private schools. You know, a lot of young girls go there, pick up a lot of communication skills, get married. Once they have children, young children, the IT sector is not able to accommodate them because of working hours and distances, etc., etc. And they have ended up giving a lot of smart, tech-savvy, good communicators. Of course, we have to work on their pedagogic skills, which most schools do. So I don't see much of a problem, but like in any other sector, private schools have to be selfish enough to ensure that they attract the best talent with good salaries, good retention skills, and good good atmosphere. That will always be there forever.
That's a great.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, next one. Who's going next?
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mangerkarasi from Vani Public School, Vaniambadi.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening to all. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you. Go
We
ahead.
can hear you.
Yes, sir. As I asked you earlier, the question may look simple, but we feel we want the practical solution for it. Once the pandemic is over, we don't know how the children would come back to school. Their knowledge, their behavior, we teachers are really worried about it because they have been at home all along. They might have got infected, the very slang, the behavior of others at home and relatives. Their ambition might have got diverted. Their positive behavior might have degenerated. Their communication skill might have gone down. I know it depends upon the locality, but anyway, some general answer we want to know. Would they have got depressed like adults because of this COVID-19? We are not sure. Really, it's a very great puzzle to all of us. Can you just explain it, how to overcome all these things, sir?
Ma'am, of course, it is going to be a great challenge. But a few positive things have also happened during this pandemic period, right? Teachers have learned beyond the textbooks. Students also learn beyond the textbooks. This is a very welcoming one. But I think the school is not infected, or the school children are not infected as we expect. Because every day our own teachers are in connect with the students for not less than 4 or 5 periods. It's happening with respect to all the schools, especially in private schools. Of course, a few challenges may be there. The kind of environment created in the last about 8 months' time. Yes, we need some time because school children are eagerly waiting the school to open because they are too much pressurized in their home. That also we must note here. They are eagerly waiting.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I don't think that much challenges we will be facing in our school. Maybe settling time may be required 2-3 months time. That's it. Let us not worry much for this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Can I also answer the?
Okay, hello.
Yeah, I think, ma'am, I'm sure that you must be facing this every year after the 2 month, 1.5 month break during the holidays. Children come back with a different energy, would have learned a lot of slang, go back to grandmother's house, get pampered, petted, and come back. And I think children are beautifully moldable, and all it takes is constant positive reinforcement by the teacher, and I think we'll get them on track immediately. And I don't think they'll be so very lost because, as sir said, we are still in touch with kids. It's more about every day, what do you feed them now, and what will you do once they come back. So I think it will take you a few days, but children will come back with you immediately.
And just to add, this is a super
adaptable also.
And just to add, I think this is a super good opportunity to also reinforce the concept of self-learning and quick learning. So whatever relearning they have to do and whatever the new technologies that they have learned and how they can build it into their system, it's a wonderful opportunity to try all those things and do things innovatively now. Whatever I have been talking about, if this is a great opportunity there.
Yes, we could convert this weakness into strength, sir. It's an
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Mr. Srikanth, would you like to go ahead?
I have a question. Yeah, good evening, all of you. As per the new educational policy of next year, which the government is going to start implementing, it's more about skill-based learning and skill-based learning, which is the need of the future. But how far all these tier 2, tier 3 cities, the budget schools are going to handle the skill-based, the infrastructure, especially when it comes to, it is going to be a major impact on the students, because some schools, especially budget schools, may invest on infrastructure, may not. So how can we try to face this? I just wanted to understand how we are going to face this.
Mr. Srikanth Nandakumar here. See,
sir.
skill-based learning isn't something new. It's just that we are talking about it now. The very fact that you have maths for centuries being taught, maths tells you logical skills, science teaches you analytical skills, a study of languages passes on good communication skills and skills of self-expression, and social studies delivered in a particular way improves your social interaction. So it's nothing new. For the first time ever, NEP repeatedly says, I don't know how well it will be implemented, it says it's not going to be input driven, it's going to be outcome driven, which means there will be lesser emphasis on how many bricks, how many walls, and what's your, what's the size of your classroom and how much you spent on your fixed assets, etc., but more on learning outcome. So the 358 grade level assessment, in fact, is not a test. That assessment is supposed to give feedback to the school and the entire system to see whether they are implementing the thing right. It's going to be student anonymized. No student will ever get to know what mark is got in 3, 5, or 8 in that grade level assessment. So the budget private schools, as long as they educate their teachers properly, and as long as the set of teachers are made aware of what they have to deliver, money will not be a problem. I don't think we are getting into a situation. There is one thing though, the emphasis on vocational skills, especially at 6, 7, 8, would mean that every school has some type of a investment, which will be very minimal on teaching of vocational skills. It could be investment in HR or investment in physical stuff. Otherwise, I don't see the NEP demanding greater demand, making greater demand of your monetary resources.
Brilliant.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else? We can take 2 more questions. Who's going next?
Yeah, sir, my question is that do you feel that online teaching it will be a new trend in the in the schools post pandemic? What you will see the future of online teaching, like it will go along with the regular schooling, or the student will completely switch over to the older way the school was going on? How you feel?
The world of parents are already disturbed by having children at home for too long. So we can depend on our parents. But the skills, all the panelists kept talking about it. The wonderful skills that the teachers as a community have picked up will be put to some use. But online classes is different from online schooling. Schools cannot be online. Education cannot be online. Okay, so there is we have to make that clear distinction. So the use of Google Forms or whatever it is to set good assessment, have instantaneous results, well tabulated, and a few other things, use of good URLs to screen a few things, those will be used by teachers. So there's very little danger. Mr. Karnagaran kept talking about it repeatedly in his first exposure. I think school education will undergo a marginal change, but the higher education will have to wait and see.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I think just to add to it, I think online education will start supplementing or rather complementing. Sorry for the word supplement. It is complementing the school education. So I don't think it's a problem as such. In fact, online education, you should really start leveraging the strength that online education offers. Everything has its own pluses and minuses. It is up to us to determine how well we use the positives of it.
Yeah, I also agree with Professor Anand.
Okay, one last question before
Yes,
we.
thank you very much.
Who's going for the last question?
Sir, may I raise one more question, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Mangerkar.
Yeah.
Sir, NEP talks about vocational education right from secondary level, I believe. Will it not affect the academic teaching and learning, sir?
Class 6 onwards, ma'am. I believe.
Pardon, sir?
It's from class 6 onwards. There will be separate
Yes.
track.
So in that case,
There will be
will it
separate
not
track.
affect the academic? Yeah. And do
Yeah.
we have enough time for the teaching and learning, I mean, academic things, sir?
Ma'am, it is going to be a separate track. We need to employ teachers to teach carpentry, to teach plumbing. I'm just giving a few points to understand in a better way. See, we had already the vocational system of education in our schools in class 11 and 12. But slowly, once upon a time it was preferred. Now, in the recent past, not many private schools have preferred this vocational education. But there are a number of subjects, even if you see CBSE, they have thrown such a number of subjects to strengthen on the vocational stream. See, if you take the state of Tamil Nadu, where our workers are from, ma'am, if you just analyze ourselves, our construction workers, you take any other industry, hospitality industry, or maintenance area. See, we get people all the way from Jharkhand, Bihar and all, right? You see the situation, right? So everyone wants to go for IT job or to be a doctor or an engineer kind of situation here. So definitely we are in need of vocationally strengthened manpower for the total population, especially if you take the state of Tamil Nadu. So the proposal is right from my point of view, so that certain percentage of our students, those who are not interested towards professional education, they will be streamlined from the school education onwards towards vocational. Of course, we need to strengthen our infrastructure and qualify teachers for that. Yes, this will not be a problem, no doubt. We are introducing for some new subjects, that's it. You take it in that way.
Brilliant.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Nandakar.
The job of an education system is not just to produce only Einsteins and Newtons. We should also produce carpenters, plumbers, and few other education. In fact, like Mr. Karnagaran said, from one district in Orissa, Kendrapada, it supplies plumbers to the entire India. So right now, the accent is on 678. If you read the thing carefully, it talks about introducing that on a hobby basis. That's what the NEP says, on a hobby basis. Which means once they develop a taste, 1 out of 200 students, 1 out of 1,000 students may develop a taste for it. 9, 10, 11, 12, it can become an optional subject, one of the core subjects. That's how it is being structured. Give them exposure at 6, 7, 8 on a hobby method. Let them be exposed to 9 or 10 or 12 vocational subjects. And 9, 10, 11, 12, he decides to specialize it like he specializes in various humanities or science subjects.
This is something very similar to the SUPW that we used to have, or I think it's still there, but I don't know how many schools actually use it. SUPW is basically to expose the students to these kind of skills, vocational skills, just as a hobby, and then build on it. But that part of it, if we exploit it and do it better, I think we are going to be pretty much aligned with the NEP. It's not a big deal at all.
In fact, that's one of the things that I wanted to ask.
Sorry, sir. Our concern is that they should not be exploited. If there is dignity of labor in our country, it's okay. But will the plumbers be, treated on par with IT people?
Ma'am, they earn more than IT people.
We think like that, sir, but it's not the
No,
case.
it's true. It's true. It's true.
Maybe we will share some data point on salaries, ma'am, so you will understand. You'll also accept that an average salary for a design engineer is about 1.5 lakhs starting salary, where an economic analyst makes about 2.5 lakhs. We have the pay scale data, so in fact I was sharing it with a lot of students, while talking about that. Now, before I close, I want this last question. How important is training the leadership of educational institutions? Because this is something that I was wanted to ask, while the session was on. We want to look at training principals and board members and correspondents. How important is this part in the transition process?
Extremely important, not in just now in the transition process.
Sir, one thing, can I just share my?
Yes, ma'am. After this, once he finishes, we can share your phone. Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Even status quo, if you look at status quo, for a majority of the ills that plague the K-12 system, the problem is non-effective training of not just the principals, but also the promoters. We don't, across the country, we don't have a standard policy of how board members should behave, what is the responsibility. Though in India, most of the private schools tend to be proprietary in nature and not like a foundation or a trust. But even then, we should have by now created our own mechanism on what should be, how, in other countries, there are some very clear guidelines on how boards of school should behave. Okay, so there's a crying need for it. I mean, we are at the fag end of the session. I don't want to go on it, but this is something that I specialize on training of principals and training, more importantly, of board members, because they interact with the principals more than others.
Okay. All right.
Just to add one more to that thing, Tamar. Basically, if you look at it, I don't make a distinction here between a school, college, or a corporate world. Everything, in fact, in my view, a school or a college is also a kind of a corporate thing. It's an organization. So anything that actually, if you want a vision to be sustained, the leadership has to be trained first. They have to be bought into it. And unless the blessings of the leadership is there, how much ever effort is put at people by the middle management or the people in the middle, that is the teachers or the poor, it is not going to bear the full fruits of it. So I think it's important to actually have this whole thing brought in by the promoters, the board, and then probably the principal, because the principal is actually will also more than the principal, the promoters, and we have to actually first accept that this is the way to do it.
There's a lot of background noise, so I was able to record a little about what you said, but then the essence, I think we all heard. So I think we have come to the end of our session, and thank you so much, the panelists, Mr. Nandakumar, Dr. Karunakaran, Dr. Anand, and Ms. Ami Shukla. Thank you so much for coming over, and I think we had a fantastic interaction, and also we had a fantastic crowd as well from the education leadership segment. So, and this was I think this is going to continue. We will do, in fact, we spoke about NEP as doing a session on NEP, and we even look at forming a informal consortium, with the school leadership, so that we can share notes, we can also troubleshoot, we can help each other in making this transition smoother for all of us. So on that note, I request all the participants to fill the feedback form. It will help us to know whether you want to be part of this group for a longer journey. And of course, we will keep troubling you now and then, so that knowledge is something that should be shared, and that's, I think, that's very important. And so please do fill the feedback form, and do take care of yourself. And I think we have to let go of the fear of this COVID virus, and I think we have to start looking at sending our children to school. I'm ready. I'm sure the parent representative Amish Shukla is also ready to send her daughter to school. So all of us should be open to that change, and I think we have to embrace that. If we change, I think we will also make that impact in the parents that we meet. So let's open up the gates, and let's open up the schools, and hopefully the next event should be in some school where we can video stream it across to other schools as well. So that should be our next vision. So on that note, thank you very much once again for sparing your wonderful precious time. So let's be in touch in the near future. Good day to all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I request all of you to fill the feedback form, and we have asked you some important questions, so that if you fill that, we can also work together in the near future. So please do click on the link, and we'll be in touch. So I request the team to be in the call, so that we can quickly hustle, and we can move on. Thank you, Persis. Thank you so much. Okay,